I'm ready when you tell me we're
And then
ready,
we
sir.
fold them and we put them in after we put
Fold them in half, drop them in the hat. You got it. And, pick people you know. Don't screw yourselves.
You can start whenever you're ready.
I am able to cheat. If you guys want to put your phone on airplane mode, that'd be great.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not going to ring. Okay. So my volume is ready. Your volume is ready for my volume?
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to 5 to 9, the movie game for movie fans, where we have to connect actors to actors through no fewer than 5 and no more than 9 movies. I'm your host, Eric Ginsberg, and we're coming to you live on tape from the boardwalk in beautiful Asbury Park, New Jersey. Do you love movies? Do you love getting lost in the IMDb, the Internet Movie Database? Do you love talking through, who is that guy? Who is in that thing? What's his face? Then this is your show, and this game is for you. In just a moment, I'm going to introduce today's contestants, but first I want to remind you that if you'd like to be a contestant on 5 to 9, you can enter for a chance to be on our show by beating us at our own game. Just download or purchase official 5 to 9 game cards at 5to9game.com. Play today's challenge, post a photo of your winning game card on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, and tag at 5 to 9 game in your post. So, my first guest immediately to my right, she is a bartender at many of the great music venues here around town, including the Stone Pony, the Paramount Theater, Convention Hall. She's very active in our scene. Hello, Shannon Barry.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
I'm so glad you are here. So, Shannon, before our show, we were talking about movies a little bit. And you told me that the film series you want to never end is Jurassic Park, and I'm guessing not coincidentally, the actor that if you could get a cheat pass for one night would be star of the most recent Jurassic Park films, Chris Pratt.
I didn't even put that together. The Jurassic Park series, I'm not even that big of a fan of it, but anytime it's on, I'll watch it.
Fair enough.
You know what I mean? It's just part of your childhood, and it's cool.
Yeah, and it's part of another generation's childhood now.
Absolutely. And that's like, I own that. You know what I mean?
When I saw Jurassic World, when I went in to see Jurassic World, I was thinking, because Jurassic Park 2, The Lost World, Jurassic Park 3, it was kind of a downhill. And then out came The Lost World, and I saw it, and it was a straight-up horror film.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
And at the end, we were the monsters. Mm-hmm. So that was a real hard look inward.
Yeah, and Dr. Wu.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Man, B.D. Wong.
I
you
know.
never saw
Sorry
it
for
coming.
the spoiler.
Never saw it. But tell me about the night you managed to meet Susan Sarandon, Jessica Lange, Spike Lee, and Ron Howard all in the same night.
It was the craziest thing. We have a good friend, Sarah Tomac, a great drummer in the area, and she happened to score tickets to Springsteen on Broadway.
Oh.
And it was the Netflix filming of the show.
So if I look, I can see you on it.
Well, yeah, they don't do a lot of. I was looking for myself. You can't see any of the audience really, but we were seated in front of Spike Lee. Ooh. Yeah. And in the line, 2 of the most beautiful women I've ever seen start walking up to us as if they're on like a girls' night date. Mm-hmm. And it was Susan Sarandon and Jessica Lange.
Wow.
It was amazing.
If I could be a fly in the wall for whatever they were talking about.
And they came up and asked us for help. They said, "Where do we go if we have tickets?" I said, "You're Susan
here.
Sarandon.
You can
wherever
go
you
wherever
want."
you.
And I said that to
Nice.
And the Ron Howard was just kind of a sighting. He was up a few rows ahead of us. So
He's
it was
over there.
pretty
You
sweet.
could kind of see the shine off the top of his head.
And it was one of the greatest. And we got to see Springsteen on
Yeah,
Broadway.
apparently
Who
Bruce also
doesn't?
showed up that night.
He was there too. Yeah, but he comes. I see him a lot. I'm kind of jaded.
Sure. You're kind of
over that.
Yeah, you're over it.
Yeah.
It's just Bruce Springsteen showing up in Asbury Park. It's what happens.
What are you gonna do?
It's what happens. So my next guest here seated to my left, for those of you podcast listeners who need to know what direction this next guest is on, he's a local poet. He performs on the first Thursday of the month at the Point Borough Library. Dan Seery.
Hi, it's great to be here.
Hey, Dan, how you doing?
Doing great.
So, Dan, you and I have a shared affinity for the Muppets.
Yes.
Tell me about your love for the Muppets.
My favorite movie of all time is The Muppet Movie. There was just something I grew up with, watching Muppet Show, mostly reruns, because I was very young when the show was on. Mm-hmm. But we used to have, before videotape, we had this thing, video disc. It was basically the movie was on a record. And I used to watch the Muppet movie as a young kid over and over again. And to this day, like, I still just really love it because it's positive. It always had like an edgy humor, but it was never mean. It was never like, it always had a very gentle spirit.
There's like a
even if it
wink
was
to the
edgy.
adults, but it's still very gentle for the kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's one reason why a lot of people were really turned off by the Muppets TV show that was on ABC a few years back, because they really did kind of grow up. I mean, they were drinking alcohol. They were talking about, adult situations in a way that I thought was hilarious, but a lot of parents were tuning in kind of thinking it was going to be Sesame Street, and it was not.
Yeah, it was a little, there was the moments in it that really worked, but overall, I think the format of that show is what really hurt it, of doing like that Office format.
And they definitely made that joke right in the first episode with Gonzo.
Yeah.
But there were so many small jokes in that show, like when Camilla came back and they were living together and Gonzo's making breakfast and there are two baskets of eggs. One says breakfast and the other says potential children. There were so many just kind of small jokes in that show you really had to look up from your phone to appreciate.
Yeah.
So, guys, I've invited you here to play the movie game 5 to 9, where you'll have to connect 2 actors through no fewer than 5 and no more than 9 movies. Here's how we're going to play. Before our show, we asked you both to write down names of 5 actors. We put those names in a hat, and now we're going to randomly draw 2 of them that you're going to have to connect. So I'm going to reach in the hat. I'm going to mix them up so we're not going to cheat. And the first name I'm pulling out of this hat, it's folded in quarters, is Jennifer Lawrence. So in the from spot of your game card, we're going to write Jennifer Lawrence. And we are going to go from Jennifer Lawrence to the second name I'm pulling out is Brad Pitt. So let's jot down in our 2 spot Brad Pitt. I almost wrote Brat. I almost put the T's instead of the D's. Classic move. We're also going to draw a third name as a wild card, and if you can go through that wild card, you can earn 3 bonus points. That bonus point is going to be Harrison Ford. So let's jot down Harrison Ford in our wild card spot. Of course, the perennial wild card, Kevin Bacon, will always get you 2. You're also going to get a bonus point for going through any SNL cast member, and we're also going to get a bonus point if we can go through today's house rule. Our house rule going to be determined by spinning the wheel. Dan, would you please spin the wheel for us? And today's house rule is musicals. So if you can go through a musical, every musical is going to get you a bonus point. And you know what? I'm going to expand that and go with musical actors as well. So if they are maybe better known for their music before acting, or at least have put out an album, not just sang one time in a movie. So any actors who are musical, any movies that are musicals would get you a bonus point. So let's start. We're going to put down Jennifer Lawrence in our initial spot and just start shouting out Jennifer Lawrence movies. Just start calling them out, maybe who was in them. Just bounce off each other. You guys are going to be playing together. I'm going to be here on the sidelines to offer help along the way, but not too much help. And as always, I apologize in advance to the actors who've spent a career building a body of work whose faces we know, but whose names we may butcher, and to all the hardworking writers, directors, and producers who picked the perfect name for a film that we may likely fumble through. I swear we really do love your work. Dan, Shannon, are you guys ready to play the game?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let's go.
Okay. So Jennifer Lawrence is in Silver Linings Playbook,
Okay.
and
Great movie.
It was
Yes.
it was a really good movie. Yeah, and she was in that with Bradley Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
And who was the dad in that movie?
Oh, he's
Robert De Niro.
Robert
Right.
De Niro, who is very tight with Bradley Cooper. They do a lot of projects together, including Limitless, including American Hustle, including when Bradley Cooper produced Joker, that also had Robert De Niro in it. And in fact, their connection goes so far back that when Bradley Cooper was a film student at NYU, he was not able to go audition for a lot of things that were shooting in LA. So he would make audition tapes and he would send them in. he would send them in. Don't start Googling stuff because we can see your screen. Don't start cheating for us, Christian. But what happened was he had sent in this audition tape, and he actually got a call back to do a reading with De Niro. And when he was done, and they said, we'll call you, and he left, Robert De Niro came after him in the hallway and said to him, look, you're not going to get this role. We're not picking you for this, but you've got something. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep
awesome.
doing this. And obviously it's worked, and such a friendship, such a relationship, such a mentorship.
Who would know that? That's
to come out of that kind of chance meeting.
Crazy.
So they do a lot of stuff together. So Jennifer Lawrence was in Silver Linings Playbook with so many people. And can we get maybe to Harrison Ford through Robert De Niro, through Bradley Cooper, or through someone who was in a movie with either of them?
Harrison Ford would. I'm trying to think. This is a tricky one.
It is.
So De Niro's in everything.
He
De
is.
Niro is.
He
was in
never
The
met a script he
Irishman
wouldn't
with Al
like.
Pacino, who was
He was in The Irishman, sure.
who was also starred Al Pacino, who was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with Brad Pitt.
Oh, well, we can get there that fast. The problem is this game is called 5 to 9. You have to do
I'll
it
go a
in no
different route.
fewer than 5 movies.
Okay.
You did it in about 3. We have to
crazy. We
spread it apart.
Okay, so
All right.
Bradley Cooper, who was in, what's a Bradley Cooper movie that we could think of there? Guardians of the Galaxy.
With my guy.
Yeah, we could do that, but
With Chris Pratt.
Yes.
sure.
Or whoever.
Well, there's a
Okay with
lot of
Chris
people in
Pratt.
Guardians movies, not just Guardians 1, but Guardians 2.
It's the whole Marvel cinematic
I mean,
universe,
once we get
right?
into
Is that-
Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, Chris Pratt's been in so many of those,
Yeah.
as has Bradley Cooper. We could just go straight from Bradley Cooper to any of those.
That's absolutely right.
I think maybe my favorite line in all of Avengers Endgame is when Iron Man has come back to Earth and they're kind of debriefing, and then Rocket suggests something, and then Tony Stark looks at him and says, I'm sorry, I thought you were a Build-A-Bear.
Right.
And his answer was, I don't know, I might be.
It's
It was a great moment.
There's so many cute little jokes like that in those movies. I love it.
Sure. So how can we get into once we go into the entire MCU, there's so many kind of ways out. So let's think about Harrison Ford movies. What movies has Harrison Ford been in with people who now have been in an MCU movie?
Wow, that's
Guardians of the Galaxy. Well, we went with Guardians?
We can, but
Yeah.
once we have Bradley Cooper, we have a lot.
go
We have
wherever we
4
want.
different MCU movies
Oh, that's
that
right.
contain literally everybody else in the universe. So let's just think about Harrison Ford movies. Just as many Harrison Ford movies as you can rattle off? Go.
Well, like
Star
Indiana,
Wars, Indiana
right?
Jones.
Yeah, they're
The
epic.
Devil's Zone was
Yeah,
which I won't mention. He was in Sabrina with, Greg Kinnear.
Yes, yeah.
I'm
my
trying to
God,
think.
I'm
Blade
blanking.
Runner, Rutger Hauer.
As well as the newest Blade Runner film.
Yes, with Ryan Gosling.
Really? Right, I haven't seen that.
Oh, it's very
Ryan
good.
Gosling.
I like the original more, but Blade Runner 2049 is amazing.
Yeah.
All right.
Visually, at least.
Yeah.
Visually.
Okay, so how can we connect that?
I'm not thinking of any Harrison Ford movies that contain MCU people, except for the fact that Harrison Ford, of course, the most epic Harrison Ford movies originally that made him a star were
Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Right.
And is there someone from the Star Wars universe who has dipped into the MCU?
From the Star Wars universe to MCU. Let's think about that.
That's tricky.
I know, right? Well, I was thinking Kurt Russell was
Okay.
in Guardians, right?
Yes.
He
In
was.
the second Guardians.
Uh-huh.
And that's kind of maybe,
And
How can we get to Kurt Russell?
how can we get to Kurt Russell?
And
Well,
I
we
mean,
get-
theoretically, how do we get out of Kurt Russell
Right,
to
Harrison
Ford?
Huh. Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell's in a lot of John Carpenter movies. Escape from New York. Oh man.
I'm sure you could rattle off the name of every bit actor in
Yeah.
that movie. That's one of your
Donald
favorite
Pleasance.
movies.
I like Escape from New York. The Thing. I don't know. I'm trying to think. Big Trouble in Little China with Kim Cattrall.
Oh, she was so good.
Oh.
Yes.
She was the girl with the green eyes,
green
right?
eyes, yeah.
The green eyes.
And
All right.
What else had Kurt Russell in it. So many Kurt Russell movies out there in the world. You got Vanilla Sky.
Yeah.
You've got
He was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
He
The Hateful
was.
Eight.
Hateful Eight.
He was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with.
Wait,
we'll get
Hateful
there.
Eight. You did it.
Hateful Eight.
Who is in Hateful Eight? Who's
Samuel
in the
Jackson.
MCU? Oh, that doesn't actually help us because then we're going around in a circle from the MCU.
Sam Jackson, who
Yes.
was in Patriot Games with me.
Sam Jackson. Wait a minute. Sam Jackson, who is the person who's in both the MCU and the Star Wars universe.
Get out. True.
And I know a
Right?
time he acted with Harrison Ford in movie Patriot Games.
Okay, so
Yes.
let's
Is that
go.
right?
So we got Bradley Cooper in Guardians 2 with Kurt
Kurt Russell.
Russell, who was in. Well, we don't actually need Kurt Russell.
Oh,
we can
Hateful
go.
Eight.
We can
Yeah.
go. But
Forget
if we're
about
trying
Kurt
to get
Russell.
to Sam Jackson, we can just go straight
Straight.
from. Well, we can go straight from Infinity War instead of Guardians 2 and Kurt Russell.
Right.
We can go from Infinity War to Sam Jackson. He had that small role in the post-credit scene.
Yep.
Okay. Sam Jackson.
Sam Jackson, who is in Patriot Games
Patriot Games with Harrison Ford.
with our wild card, and boom, we just got to our wild card. We're partway there.
Yeah.
And
Harrison Ford.
Now, how do we get from Harrison Ford to Brad Pitt?
Well, that can't be too hard.
Harrison Ford to Brad Pitt.
They were in, you
they
said it
shared a
before.
movie, The Devil's Own.
But that's only going to be 4 movies.
Okay.
Ah, we got to go further. It's got to be
Harrison
5
Ford.
to 9.
Alright.
And you know
We're
the
just
reason
too good at
some
this.
people ask me, Eric, why is it 5 to 9? Can't I just do it in 4 and call it a day? Well, couldn't you do it in 3? Couldn't you do it in 2? Couldn't you do it in 1? Couldn't you not bother playing a game and having a good time?
Well, it's like,
There has to be a challenge.
It's like Gonzo says in the Muppet movie, to bring it back. He says, I want to go to Bombay, India to be a movie star. And he says, Fozzie says, you don't go to Bombay, India to be a movie star. You go to Hollywood. He says, sure, if you want to do it the easy way. You know? So,
Wise words of Gonzo.
yeah, Gonzo's great.
That's a good one. All right, so Harrison Ford to Brad Pitt, but we cannot go directly through the Devil's Own. We got to go out
All right.
and then somehow back in. So we've mentioned a bunch of Harrison Ford movies already.
Yeah, maybe somebody he
Should
was
we-
with that acted with Brad Pitt.
I mean, Brad Pitt's been in a lot of movies
A
with
lot.
a lot of famous
I
people.
know.
So who is Harrison Ford in movies with?
All right, Clear and Present Danger.
And we could talk about the entire 4 films of Indiana Jones, which should have been 3 or maybe 2.5.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe.
Shia LaBeouf was in the last Indiana Jones.
Yeah, the
So
Crystal
Shia
Skull
LaBeouf-
where it was aliens.
It was a little wacky at the end, but
Oh, Shia LaBeouf.
Shia LaBeouf in anything with
I
Brad
mean,
Pitt?
he was in Transformers and Transformers 2 with Megan Fox and with John Turturro.
Oh, one of the best.
John
Turturro.
Turturro, right?
He's in everything.
I didn't get a chance to say hello to him,
Stop.
but I did see him once at a screening of The Thing in New York.
Oh, yeah?
And I just saw him kind of like walking around the theater. And
He's
Well, you
one of my
know,
husband's
John Turturro and Brad Pitt, they were not in the same movie, but they have a connection through the Coen brothers. And I feel like if there's a Coen brothers connection, there's got to be people they use. Who do the Coen brothers use all the time? Married to one of the Coen brothers.
Oh, Frances McDormand.
Frances McDormand.
Oh.
So was there a John Turturro Coen brothers film with Frances McDormand? I can recall, I don't think she was in Barton Fink.
No.
I don't think
She
that
wasn't in
she
Big
was
Lebowski.
in The Big Lebowski. Was there somebody in The Big Lebowski who was in another Coen brothers film with Frances McDormand? And the answer is yes. He's the one who always dies in the Coen brothers films.
Oh.
They always kill
John-
him, and it's always gruesome.
No, it's not John Goodman, is it?
Not John Goodman. No, John Goodman
He's in their
survived.
movies. He always
John
lives.
Goodman tried to spread the ashes of
Steve Buscemi.
Steve Buscemi. So if we go Harrison Ford in Indiana Jones 4, and from there we go to Shia LaBeouf, who was in, you said it before,
Oh,
Transformers
with John Turturro.
with John Turturro.
Turturro.
forget he was in that.
who was in The Big Lebowski, with Steve Buscemi. Steve Buscemi is an interesting guy. I heard an interview with him very recently, not to steal somebody else's podcast.
Yeah.
But I heard this great interview with him where he talked about how his dad wanted him to go into the civil service because then you get a pension. It's like a guaranteed job. And so he was a firefighter for many years.
Oh, he's very active with the post 9/11
Well,
firefighter.
on 9/11,
Yeah.
he went to his old ladder house and suited up, and he went out there.
He's a hero. Yeah.
He is.
Absolutely.
So Steve Buscemi was in what with Frances McDormand? We're into the Coen brothers now.
All
Those
right.
movies.
What was the first time they killed him?
First time they
The
killed
first
him.
time they
Fargo.
killed Steve Buscemi
Taking
was
it back.
Fargo. Yeah.
Okay.
And that had Frances McDormand, who was in what Coen brothers film with Brad Pitt?
Goats, right?
The Men Who
After
Stare at
Reading?
Goats. I don't think that was a
That
Coen
wasn't
brothers
a Coen
film.
Brothers. It's very
No?
much like theirs. but
It
wasn't
felt it,
Interesting.
and it had John Goodman.
Was she in Burn After Reading?
She was. They were buddies, and we have won the game. Burn After Reading. Okay, I'm going to recap it. Let's go from the top. We had to go from Jennifer Lawrence to Brad Pitt. We had to go through Harrison Ford to get the bonus points. We don't have to, but we did. So Jennifer Lawrence was in Silver Linings Playbook with Bradley Cooper. Bradley Cooper was in Avengers Infinity War with Samuel L. Jackson. Samuel L. Jackson was in Patriot Games with Harrison Ford, who was in Indiana Jones, the Crystal Skull. Ugh.
We took it there.
It was awful. With Shia LaBeouf, who was in Transformers with John Turturro, who was in The Big Lebowski with Steve Buscemi, who was in Fargo with Frances McDormand, who was in Burn After Reading with Brad Pitt. So at the bottom of the card, we got a spot for points. We're going to do 10 minus our total number of movies, which was 8. That gets us 2 points. We went through our wild card, gets us 3 points. Did we go through our house rule? Was anybody on this list a singer? Were any of these movies a
Yes.
musical?
Bradley Cooper, right?
I don't think Bradley Cooper, he was in a
He
musical.
Has a song.
I don't think he's known for
He's
his
probably
singing.
on an album.
I mean, he's on
on.
he's on the movie soundtrack to
A Star Is Born.
A Star Is Born, but I wouldn't call him a.
All right.
Yeah, I don't think
Still
it's
gotta
going to
see
count.
that
Did we go through Kevin Bacon? No. Did we go through any SNL cast members? No, we did not. So it's a
what a bummer.
low-scoring game, but we did get 5 points. You did win the game, guys. By all means, I'm so excited that you are winners today on 5 to 9. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on 5 to 9
that's
today,
great.
for playing our game. You've
so
each
much.
won the official 5 to 9 gamepad, which comes with 50 game cards, also available now at 5to9game.com. Listeners, make sure to check out. I'm going to do that again. You ready? You got the level right? Listeners, make sure to check out Dan Seery performing poetry on the first Thursday of every month at the Point Borough Library. And of course, when you're here all summer in Asbury Park at the Stone Pony, at the Paramount Theater, at Convention Hall, find Shannon, give her a high five, tip her very well. And if you 5 to 9ers listening out there in the podcast ether, we're chomping at the bit, yelling out a better solution to today's challenges as we played through them. You can enter for a chance to come on our show by beating us at our own game. Just download or purchase official 5 to 9 game cards at 5to9game.com. Play today's challenge, post your game card on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, and tag at 5to9game in your post. High scores, as well as creativity and entertainment value, will be considered. This has been 5 to 9. I'm your host, Eric Ginsberg. Our show is recorded at a Shared Universe podcast studio on the boardwalk in beautiful Asbury Park, New Jersey. Our sound engineer today has been Christian Cordes. Our theme music is by me. Subscribe to the 5 to 9 podcast through the Apple Podcast app, Google Play Store, SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube if you want to look at us too, or literally everywhere else you get your podcasts. Please play with us online through social media on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can play today's challenge or make up your own and play with or against the global 5 to 9 community. Just don't forget to tag at 5 to 9 game when you do. Thanks for listening, and let's play together again soon.
Yeah.
It's great.
You guys did great.
Fun.
Thanks a lot.
Congratulations.